Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's RNK Software Club's video for the week. The topic for this week is about how to use the drawing tools to create your own artwork shapes. And we'll also talk about the backdrop tool and how you can open up, a JPEG or a bitmap as like a backdrop to trace with your drawing tools. And so if you're ready to get started, let's go ahead and pop onto the Floriani workspace. And so we're talking about the pencil up here. And when I click on that pencil, notice that right away I get a big crosshair over, wherever my mouse is. And if I click, I start to draw a line. And if I hold down the control key, I get kind of like different curves to the line. And if I don't hold down that control key, then my lines stay kind of square or corners, right? And if I'm done drawing my line, I right click. So essentially that's how it works. And I'm ready to draw another line. Click, 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 hold down control and right click. So we can create artwork. And notice in my sequence view, we have two pieces of artwork that I just drew, and I could select them and change their color or interact with them in many different ways. I could use the shape tool to go in and see all the points that I just clicked and made, and I could use the kind of tools and handles of the program to manipulate and change my line. But the concept I want to really get across today is that there's more than one, when you click on your pencil, there's more than one mode for drawing with. And the first one that says line is kind of your default, and that's the one I showed you. You left click to get a corner, and you hold control to get a curve, and you right click to finish. Well, there's more options, and the second one is called the pen. And when you choose the pen, then when you click and you drag, it draws as you move your cursor. So kind of like a pen, it's more of a freehand drawing mode. If I kind of go out and hover and then start drawing again, I can get kind of to corner into a point and not be curvy. But essentially you click and drag to draw the line. And you can take a break while you're drawing. See, I'm still connected to my last point, and I can draw some more, and I can rest my finger, and I'm still connected. And if I'm done drawing it, I simply right click, on that. So now I've drawn quite a long piece of artwork that has, quite a few contours and lines to it, but I could easily convert it into many different styles of embroidery, including a run stitch, would be a logical one, or a steel stitch. If you tried to fill in a shape like that, it would get kind of crazy because see what it does? It kind of fills in the empty spaces, if you will, that are there. So this is really the cool thing, is that you have a pencil with your standard mode and your pen mode, but there's more, and I want to say that the last two you may not have. Those are only present if you own the Total Quilter software. That's part of Floriani Total Quilter, the arc and the curve. The first three come with Floriani, FTCU and Floriani Fusion software. So if I click on the third one, that's called Bezier. And Bezier is kind of like the first one in that when I left click, I get a corner. But with Bezier, I can left click and drag to create a curve. And if I left click and drag, I continue to create the curve, and when you right click, it stops drawing. And so left click to draw, left click and curve, left click and drag, to curve. And the longer I curve, the more it affects the shape. And the sort of, as I pull my mouse closer to the point that I clicked, the less it affects it. And I can change the angle by sort of creating these little tangent lines. And when I right click, it kind of cleans it up a little bit because those tangent lines seem to be kind of left on my screen. But that's Bezier. And really, Bezier is one that if you learn to use it in another graphics program, you might be really happy it's there. But most people stick with the standard drawing tool, the first one, the line mode. Well, now the last two, and these are for Total Quilter owners, but the third or the second last one, called Arc, works in clicks of 3. So it'll always make a perfect circle on 3 clicks. So notice that I've made 3 clicks, and now if I do a 4th click, no curve, but then when I do my 5th click, curving again, because it's all about from 1 to 2 to 3. So this can be 1, that can be 2, this can be 3. And so it's a very popular tool for drawing sort of type of quilt type shapes. If I right click, obviously I'm finished drawing. And so that's the sort of second last option, curve or arc, sorry. It comes with Total Quilter. And then the final one, if you also have Total Quilter, you have the curve. Now, curve, every left click is a curve. And guess what? If you hold down the control key, you get a straight. So it's almost like the exact opposite of the line tool, where everything's a straight and you have to hold down the control key to get the curve. Well, this time everything's a curve, but if I hold down the control key, I can get the corners. And as always, you right click to finish drawing. And so those are a lot of different ways, and you don't have to know them all or be good at them all, but there are different options to create. Now, like I said, we'd learn about the backdrop tool, because as you can see, I'm really not much of an illustrator. I need something, I usually do the drawing tool when there isn't a vector artwork available. So on your workspace, there's a tool right here called the backdrop tool. And when you click on it, it allows you to choose and select a backdrop. And it'll start with your images folder. But if you click to any folder in your computer, you can browse around to see if there isn't, some kind of a JPEG image like this. So I'm going to open up this JPEG file. And notice when you look in the sequence area, there's nothing there. There's no shapes, no artwork. But there is the backdrop, and it comes in selected. And so I can see in the properties how big it is. It's 6 inches tall. If I click and drag on a corner of the handle of the box around it, I can make it smaller. Now it's 3.03. If you knew specifically what size you wanted it, I need it exactly 3 inches tall. Just type in 3 and click apply, and it'll make it exactly that size. So now I have an image on my screen. If I click on the select tool, it'll let go of the selection of the backdrop, and I can no longer select it in any way. If you want to interact with that backdrop again, you need to click back on the backdrop tool to uncover its handles and its properties. But as soon as you do anything else, like click on the pencil to start drawing, then you'll be in a different mode, and you're no longer selected that backdrop. So I clicked on the pencil and chose the first option, the line, and see now the cursor. Notice that my mouse changes into a big crosshair. Here, let me come and click on the select tool. Notice that my mouse is now just the sort of selecting tool that you would use your cursor. But as soon as I click on the pencil, my mouse gets a big X on it. Well, if you don't like that big cursor X, because some people don't want it. I like it because I can use it to align things a little bit. But if you don't enjoy that big sort of crosshair, you can turn that off. It's in the preferences, program preferences, where you go on the tab for view, and it's right here, show crosshair in input mode. So if I turn that off, then when I turn on my pencil, I don't have that big crosshair. So it's entirely up to you whether you like it or not. So, all right. Now that you have artwork on your screen, you can zoom in. Now, I want you to know that there are other ways to create artwork, and I'm showing you how to draw it, where I would literally click here, and then I would click there, and I would click here, and I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse to help me zoom in and out. But of course, you can use the zoom tools on your workspace to do that. But see how I can zoom in and kind of make my clicks, and see how that feels like it's a curve. So I'll click here and then hold down control and click there to get that line a little bit curvier. And then here, it's kind of curvy, but if I hold down the control and I make that little click, see how it affects all this? So I'll hit backspace on my keyboard. Okay, so I can hold control there, but maybe if I don't hold control for the next one, then I can start my new curve and I can start holding control down again. See how I did that? So there's a little bit of a knack to getting used to using your drawing tools. I'm just kind of mousing to go over like this, but I will be honest, I prefer to let my software do what's called panning, and that's currently turned off. So when I finish drawing this shape, I'll show you what I mean. Now, I could keep going and finish this whole shape. It really doesn't take very long to do it, but just to kind of speed things up, I'll kind of click and finish and do only part of it. So when I right click, I'm done. And so there we've drawn, a leaf and part of a stem. And of course, if you click on run stitch, then now they're an embroidery run stitch. Another tool that you might want to use is this one here. It's the show hide backdrop. So up here is the backdrop tool to select it. Down here is simply says it's showing it or it's not showing it. So then you can kind of see what you've made on and off like that. If I click on that leaf and I click on fill, it'll fill it in. If I turn on auto satin, it'll choose a satin style. And if I go back to run stitch, you get a run stitch style. And so that's why I wanted to talk about the drawing tools, because if you really want to be able to create your own apple shape, you might want to use the drawing tools. Now, a lot of times people want to believe that it's automatic, and it can be, but you need to understand what happens. So automatic means you're using either the wizard hat or the magic wand or the red work. So we've looked at these tools in the past, but let's just quickly talk about the magic wand and how that's an outlining tool. And if I use the magic wand and click on this sort of outline of these leaves, it's going to trace around, but it's going to trace both, and I'll just hide the backdrop, the inside and the outside of that line. And if you're wondering, why does it look sort of wiggly? Well, when you look at the artwork, look how not perfectly straight it is. And so it's hard for the software to trace that and get it, perfect and smooth. So now that it's traced it, of course, but notice that it traced both the inside and outside of the line. So if you want to make that into a run stitch, you end up with a run stitch twice. And so a lot of times people are like, how do you get one run stitch for that shape, Trevor? And the answer to that is the red work tool. So let's move that off to the side. Let's put the backdrop back on. And then instead of using the magic wand, the one beside it, red work, will draw a line down the center of your backdrop. So watch. Now it does just one line down the center as opposed to two around the outside. So if you have this kind of black and white coloring book style artwork, you have pretty clean artwork like this, you might be able to use the red work tool to create a single run stitch outline of it. Once it's outlined it, I know that they're run stitch, but if you want to fill them in, you got the fill stitch tool, or the applique tool. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, which was all about using, I guess, more than just the drawing tools, because we also looked at the backdrop tool. And then later on, we talked about the red work tool and the magic wand outlining tool. Until next week, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.